Now let's move on to the introduction to derivatives. It is all about slope. Okay, we have the y-axis and then the x-axis. We have the change in x and the change in y. The change in x in orange color and the change in y in blue. And that green is the slope. So we have here the formula. The formula of the slope is change in y over change in x. But how can we find an average slope between 2 points? That is kind of interesting, right? So we have here 24 and 15 as we can see in our figure above. So we have the average slope is equal to 24 over 15. Easy, right? But how do we find the slope at a point? Well, there's nothing to measure because we only have 1 point there. So the slope must be equals to 0 over 0. Well, what's the point of measuring with that? However, derivatives is something different. Then we can have it shrink towards 0. As you can see in the figure above, we have the 0 point. Now let us find a derivative. To find the derivative of a function, y is equals to f of x, we use the slope formula. Slope is equals to change in y over change in x. And from the diagram, we see that x changes from x to x plus change in x. Y changes from f of x to f of x plus change in x. Now follow these steps. Fill in this slope formula. Change in y over change in x is equals to f of x plus change in x minus f of x over change in x. Simplify it as best as we can. Then make change of x shrink towards 0. That's kind of interesting and amazing, right? What does this d over dx x squared equals 2x mean in a way? Well, it means that for the function x squared, the slope or rate of change at any point is 2x. So in x squared, the slope is 2x is equals 4, as shown here. Or when x is equals 5, the slope is 2x equals 10, and so on. Now, please note that f of x can also be used for the derivative of. F of x equals 2x, we can read that as the derivative of f of x equals 2x, or simply f dash of x equals 2x. Now we write dx instead of change of x towards 0. And the derivative of is commonly written d over dx like this. D over dx x squared is equals 2x. The derivative of x squared equals 2x, or simply we can read that as d dx of x squared equals 2x. Now we have here the example. The function derivative of x is equals to x squared. We know that derivative of x equals to x squared, and we can calculate f x plus change in x. Start with f of x plus change in x equals to x plus change in x squared. We can expand that x plus change in x squared to f of x plus change in x equals to x squared plus 2x change in x plus change in x squared. Now we're just gonna be using the FOIL method for that to be able to expand. So the slope formula is f of x plus change in x minus f of x over change in x. Put in f of x plus change in x and f of x. Now we can have the x squared plus 2x change in x plus change in x squared over change in x. Now we can simplify that. So x squared and negative x squared is equals to 0, so we can cancel that. So we still have 2x change in x plus change in x squared over change in x. Simplify more, divide through by change in x, which is in the denominator. So we have 2x plus change in x left. So then we left to answer as 2x. So the result is the derivative of x squared is equals to 2x. In other words, the slope at x is 2x. That's all. Thank you.
Okay class, let's proceed to the derivatives of other functions. So here we can use the same method to work out the derivatives of other functions. So like sine, cosine, tangent, logarithms, and etc. First, let us know the definition of derivative rules. Derivative rules tells us the slope of a function at any point. So there are rules that we can follow to find many derivatives. So for example, for our first example, as you can see in the picture, the slope of a constant value like t is always 0. And then the next example is the slope of a line 2x is 2 or 3x is 3, etc. and so on. We have here a table. So kung mapapansin nyo, meron tayo ditong common function, function, and derivatives. So, under sa common function, so yung first is yung constant. And then yung function niya is c, and then yung derivatives niya naman is 0. Next is yung line. Yung function niya ay x, and then yung derivative niya naman ay 1. And sa another example naman, yung function niya ay ax, and then yung derivative niya ay x. Next is yung square. So, yung function niya is x squared, and then yung derivative niya naman ay 2x. Square root, yung function niya ay square root of x, and then ang derivatives niya naman ay 1/2 x raised to 1/2. Exponential. So, yung function ng exponential ay ex, ganun din sa kanyang derivative. Yung logarithms naman ay yung function niya ay in x, yung derivatives niya naman ay 1/x. Another example, yung function niya ay log sub a x, and then 1/x in a. Sa trigonometry naman, yung function niya ay sine x, cosine x, tangent x. So, derivatives niya naman is cosine x, negative sine x, and then secant squared x. And lastly, inverse trigonometry. So, yung function ng inverse trigonometry ay sine raised to negative 1x, cosine raised to negative 1x, and then tangent raised to negative 1x. So, derivatives naman ay 1/square root of 1 minus x squared, and then negative 1 square root of 1 minus x squared, and lastly 1/1 plus x squared. So, for our last table, so as you can see, rules yung nakalagay dito. So, katulad lang din siya ng unang table, meron din siyang function and derivative. So, for our first rule, multiplication by constant. Yung function niya ay cf, and then yung derivative niya ay derivative of cf. And then, yung second rule ay power rule. Yung function niya ay x raised to n, and then yung derivative niya naman ay nx raised to n minus 1. The third rule is sum rule. So, yung function niya ay f plus g, and then yung derivative niya naman is derivative of f plus derivative of g. Next is yung difference rule. So, yung function niya ay f minus g, and yung derivative niya naman is the derivative of f minus derivative of g. Next is yung product rule. Yung function niya ay fg, yung derivative niya naman is the derivative of f and derivative of g plus derivative of f. Sa quotient rule naman, yung function niya is f over g, and then yung derivative niya naman ay the derivative of f g minus derivative of g over g squared. Sa reciprocal rule naman, yung function niya ay 1 over f, yung derivatives niya naman ay the derivative of f over f squared. Una nating rule is yung power rule. So, I have here an example. So, number 1, what is the derivative of x cubed? So, here's the solution. So, wherein is 3. So, given na po yan dyan yung formula. So, d over dx, x raised to n, equals nx raised to n minus 1. So, i-substitute lang po natin yung 3, di ba? Sabi ko nga kanina, yung n natin ay 3. So, d over dx x cubed equals 3x raised to 3 minus 1 equals 3x squared. In other words, the derivative of x cubed is 3x squared.
Good day. So now I'm gonna discuss all about the basic rule of derivatives. So eventually, class, maraming rules ang derivatives. So but I only choose two rules to discuss, which is the product rules and the power rules. So let's proceed to the power rules. So here, para makuha natin ang derivatives of a given function using the power rule, we have here the formula, which is the d of n. d over dx times to x raised to n equals to nx raised to n minus 1. So para makuha natin si derivatives, ang derivatives ng isang given function, which is kailangan natin si exponent, ina-times natin o i-multiply natin siya doon kay coefficient. Then our exponent is ima-minus natin ang 1, which is 1 is already a constant or a given. So, para makuha natin ang derivative ng isang given function, mayroon tayong dalawang symbols na gagamitin. Which is if our given is f of x and our given is y or y prime. Which is f of x equals to f prime x and y or y prime equals to dx over dy. So, pag sinabing prime, which is just like this plus f of prime, which prime is the first derivative. Okay. Prime is first derivative, which means first derivative. So now, let's proceed to the example. So, we have a given here, which is f of x equals to 5x raised to 18. So, as you can see on the given is f of x. So, ang gagamitin nating symbol is f prime x. Ito siya, class. So, let's proceed. Para makuha natin ang derivative of f of x equals to 5x raised to 18. So, f prime of x equals to 18. So, ang gagawin natin dito is, si exponent ay i-multiply natin kay coefficient. Dito siya. So, 18 times 5, the variable, copy the variable, which is the x, and our exponent is 18 minus 2, 1. So, the final answer is 18 times 5 equals 90x. 18 minus 1 is 17. So, our final answer is 19x raised to 17. So, this is the derivative of f of x equals to 5x over raised to 18. So, now class, we're gonna proceed to the product rule. Since natapos na natin kung paano makuha ang derivatives of a given function using the power rule, so let's proceed to the product rule. So, para makuha natin ang derivatives of the function given using the product rule, so mayroon tayo, dapat class, ang ating given ay mayroong multiplication or multiply. Mayroong multiply. Which is, we have here the formula, which is the f of x times the g of x. So, para makuha natin ang derivative of the given number, ang kanilang derivative, we're gonna use the formula of f of x times g prime of x plus g of x times f prime of x. So, katulad na sinabi ko kanina, prime is the first derivative. So, let's proceed to the example. So, find the derivative of y equals the quantity of 2x raised to 4 minus 3 times the quantity of x squared plus 1. So, as you can see on the given function, mayroon multiplication, which is the two given number are given. So, before natin hanapin ang derivatives of y, hanapin muna natin ang f of x and the g of x. So, ang ating f of x is the 2x raised to 4 minus 3, which is this one. And ang ating namang g of x is the x squared plus 1. So, the second step is gagamitin natin si power rule. Dito natin i-apply si power rule tulad ng ginawa ko kanina. Para makuha natin si x prime of x. Okay. So, si 4, yung multiply natin siya kay coefficient, which is 4 times 2, then copy the variable x, then the exponent minus 1. Since our derivative is 0, so constant na is 0 plus 0. So, the final answer is x prime of x equals to 8x cubed. 4 times 2, 8. Then 4 minus 1 equals 3. So let's proceed to the g of x. Our g of x is x squared plus 1. So g prime x equals to 2x squared minus 1, which is our exponent. We're going to multiply here on our coefficient. So which since ang ating derivative is 0, so ang derivative of 1 is 0. So here, so the final answer is the g prime of x natin is 2x raised to 1 or 2x na lang. So now, let's proceed to the to find our derivatives. So, dito na natin i-apply ang ating formula or si product rule. Dito na natin i-apply si product rule, which is our formula is y prime equals f of x times g prime x plus g of x times g prime of x. Hanapin naman natin ang y derivatives. So, ang ating f of x is 2x raised to 4 minus 3. Ang ating g prime x is 2x plus our g of x is 2x squared plus 1, and our f prime of x is 8x cubed. So, ang gagawin natin for the third step is ita-times natin si 2fx dito sa ating binomial. And katulad din sa ating second term na gagawin. So, y prime equals to 4x to the raised to 5 minus 6x plus 8x raised to 5 plus 8x cubed. So, our final answer here, so ito-combine like terms lang natin para makuha natin ang derivative. So, 4x raised to 5 plus 8x raised to 5 equals to 12x raised to 5. Then, copy this given, which is plus 8 times 8x of x cubed, then minus x 6x. So now this is our derivative from the given function of y. So that's all.